The anime begins by showing back to Inuyasha's era when Kagome and Sango have children from their marriages to Inuyasha and Miroku. The scene then changes, showing Inuyasha and Miroku fighting the root-headed demon. However, the demon manages to escape from them both. Miroku then finds an arrow. Suddenly, they suspect that the arrow belongs to Kikyo. Because of that, they confirmed with a grandmother named Kaide that the arrow belonged to Kikyo, which was used to seal the root-headed demon. Before meeting Inuyasha, the root-headed demon apparently went after Siko no Tama's ball. The scene moves to Sango's house, where Kagome and Shippo are seen. Suddenly the root-headed demon came to Sango's house. The root-headed demon thought Kagome was Kikyo who had sealed him. Knowing that, Sango did not remain silent and attacked the demon with his weapon. Not long after, Miroku and Inuyasha came there. The demon initially targeted Siko no Tama, but because the demon was sealed long enough, he did not know that the Shiko no Tama stone had actually been destroyed by Inuyasha. Afterward, they looked for the whereabouts of the demon to be exterminated. Then, the battle ensued. Inside, Sesshomaru was seen watching from the roof. Shortly after, Kagome lures the demon because the demon targets Kikyo. But it turned out that Kagome is Kikyo's reincarnation. Soon after, the demon appeared and attacked Kagome. Luckily, Inuyasha was quick to save her. After that, she launched her legendary arrow attack, and Inuyasha used his sword to send the demon to another dimension. Finally, the root-headed demon was defeated. But apparently, there is still a part of the demon that is still alive. The demon hides and merges into a tree. The scene changes to a few years after the incident, and there are two little girls named Towa and Setsuna. They are the daughters of Sesshomaru. The next day, there is a big fire in the forest. That incident made Towa and Setsuna to be separated because Towa is instead sucked into a dimension and arrives at a tree in front of Kagome's house. It turned out that Towa had moved to modern Japan. Not long after, a young man appears and greets Towa. He turns out to be Sota, who is Kagome's brother. He realized that Towa was not from his era and reached out his hand to her. 10 years have passed. Towa was apparently adopted by Sota, and now her name uses the Higurashi surname. In that world, she goes to school like any normal child. One day, Grandpa, Grandma, and her little sister were taken hostage by thugs. Then she came to help and beat up the thugs, but suddenly she felt the same aura when she was sucked in by the old dimension wave. On the other hand, in a different world, Sango's son named Hisui and Towa's younger twin sister, Setsuna, were riding a Karara, an animal that looked like a dog, and fighting against the centipede demon. Soon after, there is a girl named Moroha, the daughter of Inuyasha and Kagome. Unfortunately, they are all pressured by the centipede demon. Then, the centipede demon takes Setsuna's golden pearl, which strengthens the demon. Suddenly the dimensional hole reappeared as it was activated by a root-headed demon that had merged with the Tree of Ages. Suddenly, that hole sucked in Moroha, Setsuna, and the centipede demon and brought them to Towa's place. Towa, who saw Setsuna, recognized her. After that, Towa attacked the centipede demon. But unfortunately, her sword broke instead. Shortly after, the centipede demon attacked again and wanted to take the red pearl in Towa's eyes. However, Towa suddenly created a stealth energy sword left over from the broken sword, and she stabbed the centipede demon. Suddenly, the demon fights back, turning against Mei, who is Towa's younger sister, along with her grandparents. And at that time, to protect them, Towa didn't know how to reactivate her demon sword. Soon after, Setsuna comes and stabs the centipede demon's head, thus killing it. After that, they talked, but it turned out that Setsuna didn't recognize Towa at all, and they got into a small argument. The scene then switches back to the feudal Japan era. At that time, Kaide was telling the others that Setsuna was Sesshomaru's daughter and she was half demon. Then she tells a story that begins 14 years ago when Sesshomaru brought two twins. Kaide explained that there is a ritual of courage and cowardice in the Sesshomaru family. She said that the ritual is a culture where parents will only take care of the strongest child. Back again to the modern Japanese era, Towa, who is arguing with Setsuna, is suddenly attacked by a root-headed demon named Hidokon. This made Hidokon take over her body and attack the people there. However, the three-headed demon was pushed back, so he moved to Mei. Shortly after, Setsuna intends to attack Mei, but Towa stops Setsuna because she doesn't want to trouble her adoptive family anymore. Seeing that, Setsuna uses her sleep butterfly jutsu and puts them all to sleep except for Moroha. Afterward, she uses stealth killing powder and instantly kills the root-headed demon that possessed Mei. The scene returns back to the feudal Japan era. At that time, Kaide says that the dimensional hole that opened was caused by the root-headed demon, which was the demon that Inuyasha, Kagome, and their friends used to fight. The next day, Setsuna and Moroha are in Towa's room. It can be seen that Setsuna never sleeps, or maybe more precisely, she can't sleep. Moroha explains that maybe Setsuna has a dream and that dream has been eaten by a dreaming butterfly, which is also the reason why she cannot remember her past. Towa, who overheard that, became determined to heal Setsuna's memory again. Sometime later, it is seen that Setsuna is so good at playing the violin after being taught by Towa's mother, Moe. On the other hand, it turns out that Moroha has found a way to return to their time. She got this information directly from the root-headed demon that came out when she was walking around. When she was about to leave, Moroha was seen bringing many things from that era because she really liked it. Her attitude seems very similar to her mother, Kagome. However, it turns out that Moroha bought all these items using Sota's account. Knowing that, he was shocked and wanted to be angry, but he realized that Moroha was his nephew. Soon after, Moroha and the others said goodbye to everyone. Then Moe gave Setsuna a souvenir in the form of a violin, while Mei, who accompanied Towa and the others, asked her to promise to return to that era again. Not long after, Moroha summoned the root-headed demons, agreeing that if they were sent back to the feudal era, the root-headed demon would be rewarded with rainbow pearls. Soon after, the dimension portal opens again, and they enter the dimension portal. Then Setsuna asked why Moroha said that to the root-headed demon. Moroha replied that she was lying so the root-headed demon would help them. After a while, Towa and the others arrived at a place that looked like a dungeon. Suddenly, an age tree spirit appears disguised as Kikyo because her arrow used to stick in the tree. The spirit ordered Sesshomaru's daughters to kill a demon named Kiranmaru, the king of the beast, because he was trying to turn back time and destroy this world. The spirit explains that Kiranmaru is the king of the beast from the east, while the king of the beast from the west is their grandfather, a great dog demon. So, when the great dog demon died, Towa and Setsuna's father, Sesshomaru, should have become the heir. However, Sesshomaru let go of that title and chose his own way. Because of that, the demon world becomes unbalanced. The next day, Moroha accepted the spirit's offer, but Setsuna refused and said that Sesshomaru should be fighting Kiranmaru himself, not them. The spirit replied that it couldn't be because they were currently walking the same path. In other words, if they want to defeat Kiranmaru, they must defeat Sesshomaru. Hearing this, Towa refused because she couldn't kill Setsuna's father. After that, the spirit of the age tree disappeared, and it turned out that she had awakened the root-headed demon. The demon then demanded the rainbow pearl that Moroha had promised earlier. It turned out that the agreement was just nonsense, so they fought against the demon. Unfortunately, the root-headed demon can absorb the aura of other demons, so Towa and the others cannot use its power. After that, Moroha threw the claw of the axe that her grandfather had given her as a good luck charm, and it turned out that this method worked. Towa then issued her ultimate move and instantly killed the demon. After that, they returned to the feudal era and were greeted by Kaide and the others. At the same time, they realized that the root-headed demon had disappeared, so they had no way to return to modern times, even when Towa had promised Mei to return. The scene changes, showing Setsuna now working as a demon slayer under the supervision of Sango's brother, Kohaku. They were here to hunt down the bone-eating demon, and Setsuna and Towa volunteered to eradicate it. Meanwhile, Moroha works as a bounty hunter who always sells her prey to a corpse dealer named Jiyube. Then Miyoga, the little bug, is always seen accompanying Inuyasha. It turns out that Moroha got an assignment to hunt down a bone demon named Jakatsumaru. The scene again shows Setsuna and Towa waiting for a bone demon to cross a bridge. Not long after, the demon came carrying lots of bones. Then Setsuna tried to attack him, but the bone demon managed to escape. Soon after, when they were looking for traces of the demon, Setsuna and Towa met Moroha. After knowing that their goals were the same, they finally decided to work together. Their targets are Jakatsumaru and his father, Takatsu. He was the demon that was defeated by Moroha, but she doesn't remember what happened back then. She only remembered that she had sold Takatsu's body and taken the red pearl from his body. So the red pearl that she had was from Takatsu. Miyoga then explained that Takatsu currently only had his head left. He said that Takatsu was one of the demons out of the 4 dangers under Kiranmaru's orders. After that, Towa and the others entered Takatsu's hideout, and the battle began. When fighting, Moroha uses lip rouge inherited from her grandmother. When she wears it, she will turn into Inuyasha, the Destroyer. Unfortunately, the technique lasted only 1 minute, and she would fall asleep after that. Shortly after, Moroha attacked Jakatsumaru with 1 strike. Then she also attacked Takatsu. However, the time for using her technique ran out, so she fell asleep. Because of that, the battle was taken over by Setsuna and Towa. Finally, they destroyed one of the demons from the 4 dangers with epic cooperation. After that, Moroha, Towa, and Setsuna brought Takatsu's head to the Jiyube shop to sell. Then Towa asked Jiyube about the dreaming butterflies. However, he said he didn't know and still needed information about that. Jiyube then gave Moroha and the others a mission to investigate a location where many people were reported missing. Soon after, they go to that place. However, on the way, they almost bumped into a little girl. The little girl said her parents had neglected her, and they only took care of their cat. Hearing that, Moroha and the others were astonished by the little girl's explanation, but coincidentally the location they headed to was the village where the little girl was from. After that, they choose to go there together. When Moroha and the others got there, it turned out that there were many cats in that place. However, the cat was a stealthy cat. They exterminated the cats. Suddenly, the residents who were there returned to normal. Afterward, they went to a suspicious temple and met a monk named Juan. Because it was getting late, Moroha and the others decided to stay the night there. But because the place was filled with the smell of demons, they ended up just pretending to be asleep. Not long after, the cat demons came out again and attacked them. Fortunately, they could attack the cat demons easily. After that, Moroha and Setsuna searched for the grave of the cat demon whose body was said to be buried under the shrine. Meanwhile, Towa chose to accompany the monk inside the shrine. Soon after, they found a large demon cat, but when he attacked, his body returned to its original state. On the other hand, Towa, who was in the temple, realized that the monk, Juan, had been possessed by a real cat demon. Soon after, Setsuna helps Towa to fight the demon cat inside Juan's body. It turned out that Setsuna originally intended to kill the cat demon and the monk, but Towa prevented her, and then she moved on her own by using her powers. Shortly after, Towa stabs the demon and absorbs his stealth energy without injuring the monk. Finally, they save the monk and say goodbye to the monk earlier. The scene then switches, showing a demon named Kyuki, one of the 4 dangers of the king of beast Kiranmaru. Shortly after, Kyuki reports to Kiranmaru that Takatsu has been finished off by Sesshomaru's daughter. On the other hand, Towa and Setsuna return to Kaide's house after carrying out their mission. Then the next day, Setsuna goes demon hunting with the other members and leaves Towa. When Towa woke up, she rushed after Setsuna. Suddenly, she met someone named Riku. Afterward, she talked and took a break with Rimiku. Then she gave him an apple from the modern Japanese era. It turned out that he liked the taste. Not long after, Riku said goodbye. He apparently has an earring that is one of the blue rainbow pearls, but he left his item in the form of a kata sword. Shortly after, Towa raises the sword and realizes it is the real Kikujumanji. Unfortunately, the sword was known to be stolen, and because Towa finds it, she is captured by troops from Agagayatsu Hiragi. Afterward, Towa is brought in front of Deputy Shogun Kanto by Sakyu, a demon disguised as Agagayatsu's advisor. Sakyu then shows some items and accuses Towa as half-stealth. He tells about a person who once came through a bone-eating well from a place called Tokyo, who is none other than Kagome. Meanwhile, Setsuna and Moroha are on their way to Towa's place, but Kyuki is apparently monitoring them through her crystal ball. She sent an ice bear demon named Fubuki to confront them. Soon after, Setsuna and Moroha are involved in a fight against Fubuki, but he is not affected by the attacks the two of them give because it is not his real body. On the other hand, Towa realized that there was another demon there. She noticed the presence of Fubuki's real body that attacked Setsuna and Moroha. Towa then tries to attack the demon with her energy, as well as give a signal to her friends. However, they realized the signal from Towa and could tell where Fubuki's real body was. Then Moroha released her arrow attack toward the Fubuki's real body with a combination of attacks from Towa. Finally, the demon was successfully destroyed. Soon after, Moroha and Setsuna then came to pick Towa up. They noticed a demon there as well. They attacked Sakyu, who turned out to be a demon, but he managed to escape. Elsewhere, Riku meets Jubei and tells him to kill the 4 dangers. It turns out that Riku is currently trying to collect the 7 rainbow pearls. He intends to take pearls from Moroha, Towa, and Setsuna. Back to where Moroha and friends were, Sakyu had run away to a cave where Kyuki was. Kyuki was angry because Sakyu had brought Moroha and her friends to his place. Then he gives Sakyu a purple rainbow pearl, so Sakyu gains strength from the pearl and transforms into a stronger form. Not long after, Moroha and Setsuna arrived and attacked Sakyu. Fortunately, Moroha managed to trap him in the cave wall with her arrows. Suddenly, Moroha was hit by the stealth attack, and it turned out that the attack made someone fall asleep and have a dream. Now it was Setsuna's turn to fight the stealth. In that fight, she was hit by the attack. However, she had no effect because she couldn't sleep and dream. Not long after, Towa arrived with Takeichio, but they were both hit by an attack and fell asleep. It turned out that the demon was trying to see their dreams and looking for weaknesses in their dreams. The next scene shows the dreams of Moroha, Towa, and Takeichio. While Setsuna, who realized this, used her style and attacked Sakyu. She managed to defeat him. After that, the Rainbow Pearl returned to the cave where Kyuki was. It turned out that Kyuki can find out about their dreams, especially Towa, whose dreams involve dreaming butterflies and the age tree. Not long after, they finally woke up and went straight into the cave. However, due to the Rainbow Pearl's effect, their energy was absorbed by Kyuki. Sadly, Moroha can't even transform into Inuyasha. Then Kyuki transforms into his original form and overwhelms Moroha and the others. At that time, she recalled the fight against the cat demon. Then she reminded Towa that she could absorb other demonic energy. Afterward, Moroha attacked Towa. Fortunately, she transferred Moroha's attack into her stealth sword energy, which was successful. Then Towa jumped up and thrust her sword into the Rainbow Pearl. On the other hand, Riku had been observing them from up in the sky along with Takeichio. Soon after, Kyuki managed to block Towa, who was about to attack her pearl. Then when he was about to counterattack Towa, Setsuna instead protected her so that she was hit by Kyuki's attack. Seeing her little sister injured, Towa was furious and released her stealth energy and used a sky blue dragon attack on Kyuki and knocked her down. After that, Riku came and took Kyuki's Rainbow Pearl and then destroyed him right away. The scene changes, showing Moroha getting a mission in exchange for 1,000 Mon coins. However, Towa and Setsuna don't join because they have different goals. Eventually, Moroha was left alone. Then Towa asked Jubei about the dream butterflies, but he still didn't get any information. He suggested making a gift just as other people pay for them. So if there was a prize, people would look for that information, but because Towa and Setsuna didn't have any money, they went after Moroha to hunt the demons. Not long after, Towa and the others arrived at the location, and it turned out that the stealth they were currently facing was one of the 4 dangerous demons named Kanten. Afterward, they fought Kanten, who issued Lion Wind and Lion Thunder, the stealth pet creatures. Besides that, Kanten wore a very strong shield, so Towa and the others couldn't hurt him. In the end, they were even pressed. Suddenly, someone made a black cloud and moved them to a place by the river. That person is Mai Fuku, the son of Meizu, the demon with the hardest shell among the other demons. Mai Fuku then showed the skeleton bones in the river, which were his father's bones. He explained that his father was killed by Kanten using a magic trap, then Kanten took Meizu's armored shell. Therefore, Kanten has a very strong armor shield. Since then, Mai Fuku has followed Kanten to retrieve his father's shell, but he is still weak, and his shell is not as strong as his father's. Suddenly, Kanten came after them. Mai Fuku then turned into a shield for Towa, and they fought there. Unfortunately, Setsuna was overwhelmed by Kanten, and Moroha couldn't help because she needed more time to transform into Inuyasha. Afterward, Towa fought back with the help of Mai Fuku's shield and managed to withstand the demon's sword attack. Soon after, Mai Fuku advised Towa to channel stealth energy into Kanten's armor so he could communicate with his father. Shortly after, Meizu restrained Kanten's movements so his son could attack Kanten using his Black Thunder Phantom stance. Soon after, Towa took part in attacking Kanten, so his shield was finally released again. In the end, Kanten was finally paralyzed, but when Moroha was about to kill him, he escaped from that place. After that, Mai Fuku returned to his father's shell and prayed for him. Meanwhile, Moroha and the others continued their journey. The scene changes, showing Towa and the others have arrived at the location of the village where the demon is said to be rampaging. In that place, plants and animals roasted as if lightning had struck. A resident said this was the work of invisible brothers Kinka and Ginka. Not long after, Kinka and Ginka appeared in the sky, and they continued to fight. They both come from the Ka demon race, which has the form of 2 heads in one body. The demon race will continue to fight over their bodies, and the ones that survive will be one very strong demon. Suddenly, Towa tries to stop them from fighting because they are siblings. At first, Kinka and Ginka ignore Towa, but when they see the rainbow pearls in Towa and Setsuna's eyes, they are interested in taking the pearls and decide to stop fighting and temporarily retreat. Soon after, Towa and the others went to the residents' houses there because the residents felt they had been saved by them. However, when they were at the resident's house, Kinka and Ginka came and possessed Towa and Setsuna's bodies, so they attacked each other. Luckily, Setsuna brought the demon exterminator powder, thus making Kinka and Ginka come out of their bodies, but their pearls were taken by the 2 demons, so Towa and Setsuna went after them and left Moroha. On the other hand, Kinka and Ginka meet Ka's stealth leader, Lady Joka. Suddenly she catches Ginka and absorbs his stealth energy. This made Kinka angry because even though they always fought, he didn't want if his young brother's body was taken by other people, including Lady Joka. After that, Kinka tried to release Ginka, while Towa and Setsuna had just arrived at the demon's location. Setsuna, who saw this incident, began to remember Towa in the past during the forest fire, even though she did not fully remember. Meanwhile, Lady Joka finally makes Kinka and Ginka separate from each other, and Kinka is thrown into the mountain. Soon after, Towa and Setsuna help Kinka and work together to fight Lady Joka and make Ginka escape. However, Kinka was instead hit by Lady Joka's attack and fell with his young brother. Meanwhile, Setsuna continued attacking Lady Joka and annihilating her with her strength. Afterward, Towa and Setsuna approach Kinka and Ginka, who is dying. Kinka finally realized that they would be separated if one of them died. Shortly after, their bodies turned to ashes. Finally, Towa and Setsuna got their pearls back. Suddenly, Moroha just arrived at the place because she was left behind. The scene changed. It shows Towa and the others near a pond full of mud. Suddenly, Moroha saw a bird flying over the pond, but the bird was eaten by the pond's water. According to the residents, the river used to be very beautiful and shone like a mirror, but one day something living came out into the pool and started to make the pond cloudy. After that, Setsuna saw 2 children who were siblings fighting at the edge of the pool. Apparently, the elder brother wanted revenge on the pool for taking his parents' life, but his younger sister tried to prevent it. Soon after, Setsuna restrained the elder brother from approaching the pool and brought the 2 children back to their house. When it was getting late, their grandmother offered Towa and the others to stay at their house. Grandmother said that since she was little, the pool was muddy. One day, a hermit planted medicinal plants on the pond's edge to purify the pool water, but because there was a poisonous snake demon, the pond became cloudy and muddy again. After that, Setsuna played her violin to cheer them up. Suddenly, the 2 children cried because it reminded them of their father, who always played the violin near the pool before being swallowed up by the pool. The next day, Towa and Setsuna, followed by Moroha, came to the pool. They intended to eradicate the snake demon in the pool. Then Moroha challenged the snake demon to come out. Suddenly, the snake demon appeared and attacked them. After that, the snake demon released its poison, paralyzed Moroha, and attacked her until she fell down. Fortunately, she fell on the medicinal herbs on the pond's edge, so the poison's effect disappeared. On the other hand, Towa is not affected by the poison of the snake demon. It turns out that there are two demons in the pond. Another demon is only in the form of a floating head with a mud body, and this kind of demon has poison. Towa said she was starting to feel the poison from the mud demon's water. However, Setsuna is not affected by that. It turns out that Sesshomaru's twin daughters have two different types of resistance to poisons. Then Setsuna remembered the medicinal plant that could purify water. She went towards the plant and used her hurricane attack to direct the plant toward the mud demon. Meanwhile, Towa attacked the poisonous snake demon using her energy sword. In the end, the two demons were defeated, and the pool water became clear again. The scene changes, showing Kantan summoning Nikozan, a former hermit who turned into a demon. Afterward, he gives Nikozan the task of getting rid of Sesshomaru's twin daughters. The next day, Nikozan started carrying out his actions by making the soil and plants wither due to the loss of nutrients. He created a poison mist in the forest. On the other hand, Towa and the others set out to explore the mist, but Setsuna is surprised that Towa, who should have resistance to poison mist, is now being poisoned instead. Not long after, Nikozan appears to attack them. Seeing that, Setsuna becomes worried because Towa's stealth power is weakening. Moroha then fought Nikozan, but her attacks were unaffected. Even though Moroha manages to behead Nikozan, he is still alive and running away. Then Setsuna chases after his head while Moroha guides Towa across the bridge to leave. But it turns out that Nikozan was already waiting at the end of the bridge. Suddenly, Towa's hair is now starting to turn black because she is half-stealth. It turned out that the energy of half-stealth creatures will disappear when there is a new moon, and it turns out that night is the time for the new moon. Nikozan cut the bridge's ropes, causing Moroha and Towa to fall into a ravine. On the other hand, Setsuna, who was looking for Nikozan, instead met demon hunters led by Kohaku. Elsewhere, Towa and Moroha managed to survive and hide in a cave. Miyoga then explained to them that some demi-demons would experience this. Towa worries about Setsuna, who must be going through the same thing as her, and intends to leave. Suddenly, Moroha knocks Towa unconscious because she hasn't recovered yet. After that, Moroha and Miyoga set up a Kekai barrier so that the cave would not be detected by Nikozan until the new moon ended and things returned to normal. On the other hand, Kohaku orders the demon hunters to set fire to the forest so the poison mist can dissipate and not spread. Meanwhile, the Kekai that protects the cave where Towa is hiding is starting to break loose. Towa worries that Setsuna will experience the same incident like when she lost her stealth powers. After an attack from demon hunters, Nikozan finally finds their hiding place and turns Moroha and Towa into statues, but Setsuna notices Moroha and Towa's whereabouts. Soon after, Setsuna arrives on time and attacks Nikozan. It turns out that she is not affected by the new moon's presence. She remains normal as usual, but she was caught off guard by Nikozan and was about to be eaten. Fortunately, the night was over and Towa had returned to normal, so she could start a counterattack with her stealth energy. Afterward, she took out her blue dragon style and defeated Nikozan. The scene changes, showing one of the 4 dangerous Kiranmaru demons, Tatetsu. The demon is very happy to eat monks, and he has one of the rainbow pearls. Meanwhile, Towa, Setsuna, and the demon hunters are discussing the appearance of Tatetsu, who is targeting the monks. Afterward, Kohaku told Hisui to go to his father, Miroku, who was training for 1,000 days to get heavenly powers. There, it can be seen that Hisui doesn't like his father, even though he is a monk and might be targeted by Tatetsu. Long story short, they arrived at Miroku's place. There was Hisui's sister, Gyokuro, who happened to be visiting that place. Miroku seems to know Setsuna, but she doesn't remember him. Miroku said that he used to have a vent in the palm of his hand. However, after the last fight and managed to beat Naraku, he lost the hole, and that's when he realized that he couldn't do anything. Because of that, he decided to train to fight the demons. Meanwhile, the demon hunters meet Moroha. It turns out that Moroha is guarding the temple gate to hunt demons. As usual, she did that to get payment from Jiyubei. Shortly after, Kohaku and his friends went to the South Temple because the temple they had gone to before was guarded by Moroha. Meanwhile, Towa and Setsuna are talking with Gyokuro while eating snacks that Towa brought from the modern Japanese era. There, Setsuna realized that Miroku was a monk. Soon after, Towa and Setsuna meet Hisui by the river, while Gyokuro leaves with Karara. While they were talking, suddenly Setsuna sensed that Tatetsu was heading their way. Not long after, he appeared where Miroku was, and the 3 of them went to his place and started fighting Tatetsu. Knowing that, Miroku left that place. Then, Hisui says that his father was a loser who always ran away. On the other hand, Tatetsu started sucking everything into his mouth. Not long after, Miroku returned with his monk's staff and approached Hisui. He said that Tatetsu's strength was the same as his previous vent power, which could suck everything in. He ordered Hisui to throw the stealth poison into Tatetsu's mouth. But it turns out that Tatetsu can choose what he sucks in and takes out the poison that Hisui threw back. Soon after, Setsuna approached Miroku and asked him to release the seal on her body. Then Miroku released the seal, and her body was filled with strong invisible energy. Not only that, but suddenly, a red line appeared on her face, the same red line as her father's. After that, Tatetsu ate Setsuna's poisoned blood, and he began to be pressured. Unfortunately, he managed to escape. After that battle, Miroku resealed Setsuna, and finally, the wounds on her hands disappeared. On the other hand, Moroha, who was still waiting for the demon, was still at the gate earlier and was shocked after being told by Takechio that the demon had been exorcised. It annoyed Moroha because she failed to get the bounty. The scene changes, showing Towa, Setsuna, and Moroha on their way to Jiyube's place to get another stealth hunting mission, but when they get there is a woman named Tamano. That woman was brought there by Riku. When Riku finds Tamano in the middle of the snow, it turns out that at that time, she was running away from an evil god named Himura in the snowy mountains of the north. Tamano says that she has become a famous girl since she was little. Because of that, many people want to propose to her. One night, Himura appears and drags her to the snowy mountains to live with him at his mansion. At first, Himura was kind to Tamano, but as soon as someone walked by and looked at her, Himura got angry and set the person on fire. Due to excessive jealousy, she was finally locked up by Himura, so no one would see her. Fortunately, she managed to escape from there. When she escaped, Tamano walked among the snow mountains until she finally met Riku. They all guessed that if Himura knew that Tamano was going with Riku, he probably would have grudges against Riku too, so for that reason, he gave Moroha a mission to exterminate the evil god Himura. Hearing this, Moroha got excited because the evil god's head must be expensive. Shortly after, Towa and Setsuna took on the mission. Sometime later, they arrived at Himura's mansion. Moroha, without thinking, challenged Himura, but she got mentally hit by his attack. However, when Himura saw the gold and silver pearls in Towa and Setsuna's eyes, he admitted that he was the demon who set fire to the forest when they were a kid, causing them to be separated from each other. He fires the forest on Zero's orders to destroy them. Hearing this, Towa became angry because Himura and Setsuna had been separated for years. On the other hand, Tamano arrives with Riku to catch up with them when Himura is about to attack them. When Himura saw the arrival of Tamura, who was accompanied by Riku, this made him very angry and jealous. However, Tamano insists that she doesn't want to live with Himura and will never return to him. Hearing this, Himura was heartbroken, and the area around him started to burn. Even he burned himself. At that moment, he was really burning with jealousy. In the end, Tamano was freed from the shackles of the evil god, and she returned to her grandparents. Meanwhile, Towa and her friends returned home. Even though their mission was successful, Moroha was very disappointed since she failed to get Himura's head because he burned himself to ashes. The scene changed, showing the incident 18 years ago when the white half-demon was born. The story begins by showing Riku meeting a gem-making demon named Hosen Kitu. At that time, Hosen Kitu shows off his artificial black pearl to give to Inuyasha. When he was about to give the black pearl to Inuyasha, he asked Inuyasha to show a special technique his father inherited, named Kongasoa. Unfortunately, when Inuyasha showed that technique, his attack destroyed the house's roof and made Kagome angry. Hosen Kitu explained that the black pearl originally came from the tears of the wife of the great demon named Izayoi when she saw her husband die. Inside the black pearl are the tomb of the great demon and Tesoiga's sword. Soon after, Hosen Kitu gave Izayoi's lip color, which is currently used by Moroha to transform into Inuyasha. The scene changes, showing Miroku's children being cared for by Kaide. At that time, Rin, Sesshomaru's wife, apparently is about to give birth. Not long after, Sango, who was carrying little Hisui, came to see Kagome, who was currently pregnant. After that, Kagome met with Riku, who told him about the impending danger. Riku said that every 500 years, it is time for a deadly comet to approach the Earth. Currently, a large fragment is heading for the Earth. He explains that 500 years ago, the great dog demons and Kiranmaru worked together to destroy the comet. In 7 days, the fragments of the comet will fall to Earth. But now the great dog demon spirit is gone, and Kiranmaru has been sleeping for a long time. Even though they wake Kiranmaru up, he will likely take advantage of humans and kill half-demons, including Inuyasha and his children. Riku said that his last hope was Inuyasha and Sesshomaru, who had to combine their strengths to destroy the comet. Then Riku asked Kagome to persuade them to work together to destroy the comet fragments. On the other hand, Sesshomaru was visited by Zero. She made fun of Sesshomaru, who initially hated humans, but now he has a human wife and half-stealth children. Zero is sure that if Kiranmaru finds out, it is certain that Sesshomaru's children will be killed by him. She warns that comet fragments will come to Earth. Sometime later, Rin has given birth to twin girls, Towa and Setsuna. Not long after, Sesshomaru came there and suddenly took his 2 children. He said that he did it as a ritual of courage and cowardice. While on his way, Sesshomaru, carrying his children, was intercepted by Zero's demons. However, Sesshomaru defeated that demon. Then he took the gold and silver pearls in the demon's hands and implanted them into Towa and Setsuna's eyes. After that, Jokin made a barrier, so Sesshomaru's children were safe from stealth. Sesshomaru then went to his mother's palace. Suddenly, Inuyasha and Kagome come to destroy the fragments of a deadly comet heading for Earth. Not long after, the deadly comet came, and they succeeded in destroying the comet. On the other hand, Zero had awakened Kirinmaru and told Sesshomaru, who had a human wife and a half-demon child. In the Siko no Tama Ball prediction, it is said that Kirinmaru will die at the hands of a non-human and non-stealth being. In other words, he will be killed by a half-demon or a quarter-demon. That's why he doesn't like creatures like Inuyasha. Unexpectedly, Sesshomaru came to Kirinmaru's place and offered to work together to kill Inuyasha. After that, they came to Inuyasha and Kagome, who was holding baby Moroha. Kagome then entrusted her child to Hachi to take her away. Kirinmaru originally intended to attack Inuyasha, but Sesshomaru quickly took the black pearl from Inuyasha's eye and pulled Inuyasha and Kagome into the black pearl. Actually, Sesshomaru wants to protect them but protects them in his way, who is cold and pretends to take care of his image. On the other hand, Moroha turns out to be entrusted to the demon werewolves and raised by them. Several years passed. In the forest, Towa and Setsuna were raised by Jokin. At that time, Zero found their place and told Hamura to burn the forest in front of Sesshomaru's eyes. When Hamura burned the forest, Towa moved to the future and parted ways with Setsuna. The scene changes, showing Towa, Setsuna, and Moroha meeting a woman. But Moroha seems to know this woman because a woman named Yawaragi is her teacher. Moroha then told her story with her teacher that happened 3 years ago. Yawaragi takes her to a cave called Kodoku for Moroha's final training. Inside the cave, hundreds of demons are fighting. The last one standing is called Kodoku, or the strongest demon. Yawaragi says if Moroha manages to get out of there, her training is complete, and she will be given the sword Kirikarimaru. Soon after, Moroha entered the cave and fought with the demons there. At first, she was desperate and wanted to use her lip color to turn into Inuyasha, but she remembered her teacher's words not to depend on it. Then she fought the demon with her abilities and finally got out of there. However, her teacher was no longer at that location when she came out. Elsewhere, Yawaragi turns out to be playing gambling with Jiyube while talking about Moroha. However, Yawaragi lost and handed over his weapon to Jiyube. It turns out that Yawaragi put Moroha into the Kodoku cave to train her and be used as a bet. It turned out that Yawaragi gambled on finding money to remove the iron rat armor on his body. The armor would continue to shrink until it was the size of a mouse, and she needed 12,000 points to buy the key to the mouse demon blacksmith. Not long after, Moroha came there and got angry. She thought her teacher and student relationship with Yawaragi was over and asked for Kirikarimaru's sword. Jiyube then gave a deal that he would buy Moroha for 15,000 points, and Yawaragi agreed. That was why Moroha, who until now worked as a bounty hunter, paid off his debt to Jiyube. After 3 years have passed, Moroha now meets her teacher again. But it turns out that Yawaragi is still wearing his iron rat armor. It wasn't because he had no money or couldn't find the blacksmith rat demons, but at that time, all the blacksmith rat demons had been slaughtered by Kanten, and he took the key to Yawaragi's armor. Kanten then threatened that if Yawaragi did not kill his student, Moroha, who had killed the 4 dangerous stealth of Kirinmaru, then Kanten would destroy the key so that Yawaragi could not open his armor. Unfortunately, Yawaragi can't help but comply with Kanten's wishes. Unexpectedly, Moroha accepts it happily and forbids Towa and Setsuna from interfering. Shortly after, a battle between teacher and student ensued, and the attack from Moroha was easily blocked by Yawaragi. Then when Moroha was about to use her lip color again, Yawaragi scolded her not to use it like before. Moroha then remembered that the scar on Yawaragi's face was caused by Moroha because she was applying lip color and getting out of control. Therefore, Yawaragi was forced to use the cursed iron rat armor to help Moroha back then. This time, Moroha was determined not to use that lip color. Soon after, Yawaragi used his Wind Moon's ultimate technique. Meanwhile, Moroha used a new technique, the reverse red dragon slash. When the attack was reversed, Yawaragi held Kanten from being hit by the attack. However, because Kanten has the blue rainbow pearl, he can move. It turns out that the attack only hits Yawaragi, and he dies, making Moroha very sad because she was abandoned by the only teacher who had trained her since childhood. The scene changed. It shows Riku coming to Kanten, who is setting a trap for the half-demon princesses. Soon after, Riku comes from Kirinmaru's discarded horn, so he is familiar with Kirinmaru's subordinates. But the main mission is to collect rainbow pearls. Meanwhile, Towa and Setsuna continue to search for the dreaming butterfly, which is said to be on Mount Mitsubishi, but they need to find out where it is. On the other hand, Moroha kept complaining that there were no missions for him, and instead, he was told to clean up. But suddenly, Riku came there and asked Moroha about the 4 dangers of the Kirinmaru stealth hunt. Riku then gave information about where Tatetsu was. Soon after, Moroha goes to meet Towa and Setsuna to hunt Tatetsu's demon, but Towa focuses on finding the dreaming butterfly to restore Setsuna's memory. Riku said Kirinmaru had something to do with dreaming butterflies, so Towa agreed to join Moroha. They then went to Tatetsu's location, which turned out to be eating the monks. However, that was just a trap to lure the half-stealth princesses. Shortly after, Towa and the others confront Tatetsu, and the battle begins. Unfortunately, he ran away to lure them to the trap made by Kanten, and they fell into it. Suddenly, Towa and Setsuna enter an illusion that makes them spin around that place, while Moroha is trapped in an illusion of an endless rock cliff. However, Towa and Setsuna realized it was a magic trap and knew that Kantan had made it. Setsuna then injures herself to make the illusion disappear, but it doesn't work. On the other hand, Moroha was tired of climbing the endless cliffs, and demons began to appear to attack her. Then Setsuna said that Towa could smell stealth waves to know Kantan's position so he could cut him. They then worked together and managed to get out of Kantan's magic. Soon after, Tatetsu swallowed one of the rainbow pearls, allowing him to emit fire from his mouth. Meanwhile, Towa and Setsuna confront Kantan, who casts Lion Wind and Lion Thunder with his magic. Fortunately, the animals could be defeated by Towa and Setsuna. Knowing that, Kantan summons a large blue orc and overwhelms Towa and Setsuna against it. Finally, thanks to their cooperation and abilities, Kantan was defeated, and now the 4 dangers inherent in Kiranmaru are only Tatetsu. It turned out that Tatetsu himself is still dealing with Moroha. Afterward, Towa and Setsuna join forces to help Moroha and overwhelm Tatetsu. Then he runs away from there. Seeing him run away, they chased him. On the other hand, Riku went to Kantan's corpse and took his rainbow pearl. When Tatetsu went to the beach where Kiranmaru was, Kiranmaru seemed a little angry because Tatetsu had brought half-demon princesses into his territory. Not long after, Moroha, Towa, and Setsuna faced Kiranmaru, but of course, their current strength was not comparable to his, so the 3 of them were defeated easily. Suddenly, Sesshomaru came, and a fight ensued between Kiranmaru and him. Their fight was so fierce that even heaven and earth reverberated from the clash of their powers, and even the spark knocked Towa and Setsuna unconscious. After that, Kiranmaru and Sesshomaru had a conversation. Soon after, they both left, leaving her twins' daughters, who fainted while warning Jaka not to talk about it. Sometime later, Moroha and her friends woke up and discovered that the battle was over. The scene changes, showing Hisui and his group being summoned by Princess Aya when their leader Kohaku is not coming. It turns out that they will become demon hunters for the Hiragi family's house, but the condition is that they must enter the contest with the bounty hunter chosen by Princess Aya. On the other hand, Hisui and his friends thought they would not have a hard life if they joined the Hiragi family, and it turned out that Moroha was in the group of bounty hunters, and they finally agreed. Hisui then asks Setsuna to participate in the match, but she gives a condition not to tell Towa about it. The next day, it was seen that Moroha was getting ready. However, when Towa saw this, she felt suspicious. Then she met Setsuna, but Setsuna was no longer there, and Towa only met Kiara. In the end, they left to find Setsuna. On the other hand, the demon slayers and Setsuna were already in place while Princess Aya was at the tower to witness the battle. Soon after, the bounty hunters had come with Moroha, posing ridiculously before the battle started. After that, the battle started, but they didn't fight seriously because it was arranged in such a way. Hisui then orders his friends to throw fireballs at the bounty hunters, but suddenly Towa arrives with Kiara and doesn't know that the battle that is taking place has been arranged. It turned out that Moroha didn't tell Towa because Setsuna forbade it. Not long after, Setsuna arrives and tells Towa not to interfere in their battle. Towa was surprised because she had just discovered that Moroha was fighting against the demon slayers who continued to attack fireballs at them. However, because Setsuna doesn't want to make a show for Princess Aya in vain, she tells Towa not to get in their way or else she will fight Towa. Because of that, they fought with their own moves. Meanwhile, Hisui orders Takechio to turn into sparks and attack Moroha. Suddenly, Hisui came there and told Towa not to interfere, but she still didn't accept this. Then Hisui attacked her with his style and was saved by Moroha. Because of that, his attack hit Moroha. On the other hand, Princess Aya looked very happy and said that the battle was just a trick to satisfy herself, but suddenly Kohaku heard that. Meanwhile, Towa cries because Moroha is falling down, but it turns out it's not her but Takechio disguised as Moroha. They all finally told that the battle was just pretending to be able to become a demon slayer of the kingdom and not worry about money anymore. Suddenly, Kohaku said that Princess Aya had lied and deceived them. Soon after, he advised them that the demon slayer's goal was to help people, not to earn money. The next day, Princess Aya was scolded by her father because she had deceived other people. She did that because she was annoyed because the demon hunters had soiled her kimono. When Towa, Setsuna, and Moroha returned home, Towa cried and hugged them. Towa was not angry with the attitude of those who had lied to her. She is actually grateful because everything is fine. Elsewhere, Setsuna invites Towa to a hidden village for half-stealth. That place is where Setsuna lived when she parted ways with Towa. Setsuna came to the place escorted by Jaken's two-headed dragon. At that place, Setsuna meets Shiori and the other half-demon kids. Shiori is a half-demon of the Bat Demon tribe. She uses the power of protective creation to protect the village. During the day, they search for food and hide from stealth at night. While in that place, Setsuna learned many things, from reading to writing. Sometimes she received items intended for her and followed the instructions contained in those items. The next day, a demon appears in the village, and they must work together to defeat it. When Setsuna was 6 years old, she received a letter to go to her birthplace and arrived at Kaide's place. Then she stopped for a moment. After beating up 2 bandits, Setsuna returned to the hidden village. One day, Shiori loses her powers at the time of the new moon. Suddenly, a demon named Gagagozen appears and plans something in the hidden village. He apparently intends to catch half-demon children to eat. Shortly after, Gagagozen finally arrived at the hidden village. Seeing him, Setsuna and her friends attacked him. However, her knife broke when it collided with his weapon. At the same time, Miroku appears to help, but he loses. Unfortunately, Setsuna was hit by Gagagozen's attack, and her friends were pressured. Under these circumstances, Setsuna's demon blood finally took over her body, and she turned wild. She attacked Gagagozen's body to pieces. Suddenly, she couldn't control her body and almost injured her friends and attacked Miroku. Fortunately, Miroku swiftly managed to immobilize her and create a Kekai barrier on her body with Gagagozen's weapon, which is now always used by Setsuna. After that, Shiori told Setsuna to join the humans because she was strong enough. Soon after, Setsuna returned to Kaide and joined as a demon slayer. Because of that, she is currently taking Towa to that place because sometimes she protects that place from the incoming demons. Then the scenes switch, showing events that occurred several hundred years ago. At that time, Kiranmaru had not been sealed, and the Great Demon was still there. The 4 Danger Demons said the Great Demon was seriously injured after the fight. They said to attack the Great Demon, but Kiranmaru refused because he didn't want to attack a wounded enemy. Kiranmaru said he wanted to win fairly and honorably. Then he called Riku and told him to collect medicinal plants to be sent to the injured Great Demon. Afterward, Riku went to where the Demon Great was. But when he arrived, the Great Demon's house was already on fire, and he was already dead. At that time, the only survivors were Izayoi and her half-stealth son, Inuyasha. Knowing that, Riku returned to report this. Soon after, he met Zero, and she apparently cried upon knowing that. It turns out that Zero has feelings for the Great Demon. Then, she asks Siko no Tama's ball to throw away the strength of her sadness and tears. Afterward, Zero's tears dripped onto Siko no Tama's ball, and a rainbow pearl was created containing her and Siko no Tama's powers. Since then, she is no longer a demon and has never felt sad. This story is the story of the origin of the rainbow pearl ball. Soon after, the scene changed. It shows Setsuna warning Towa not to go out because tonight is the new moon. Kaide then said that Towa reminded her of her mother, Rin, who used to live with Kaide. But after giving birth to both of them, Rin disappeared either because she was kidnapped or left of her own accord. At night, Towa went to sleep, and in her dream, she dreamed about a dreaming butterfly and a woman in the sacred age tree. When she woke up, Towa saw the dreaming butterfly that was in her dream flying outside, and she chased it until the butterfly disappeared near the sacred age tree. On the other hand, Tatetsu is searching for the demi-demons because he knows their powers disappear at night. Towa, who was chasing the fireflies she saw, instead ran into Riku. Riku apparently wanted to take Towa's rainbow pearl, but because he was losing his strength, he discouraged him from doing so. Soon after, Riku and Towa finally drank tea together and looked at the stars. Riku then told her he wanted to collect all the rainbow pearls and return them to their owners. But suddenly, Tatetsu came and attacked them. Riku was annoyed because Tatetsu had bothered him, then he fought against Tatetsu. At that time, Tatetsu asked if he ate Riku, would it taste the same as his lord, Kiranmaru? Hearing that, Towa was surprised. She didn't know that Riku was a part of Kiranmaru's body that was thrown away. Tatetsu then took out a poisonous bee, and Riku helped Towa until his back hurt to protect her. At the same time, Moroha and Setsuna arrived to save Towa. Suddenly, the sun rose, so she regained her strength. After that, when they prepared to attack Tatetsu, he intended to run away and let out his black cloud. Fortunately, Riku's sword shot and severed Tatetsu's head. Riku then took Tatetsu's rainbow pearl and hugged Towa because she was fine. Suddenly, Setsuna drew her weapon towards Riku because she said Riku smelled the same as Kiranmaru. Hearing that, Riku left, but Towa unexpectedly gave her silver pearl to Riku voluntarily. After that, he said goodbye to her. Meanwhile, Moroha was very happy because she got Tatetsu's head to sell to Jiyubei. The scene changes, showing a flashback when the fragments of the deadly comet fall, and at that time, the Great Dog Demon and Kiranmaru worked together to destroy the comet. After that, Zero approached the Great Dog Demon, who said goodbye to return to the West. There it is seen that she has feelings for him. The scene then changes to a different era. Zero comes to Miroku's place and asks about Setsuna, whose demonic powers have been sealed with Miroku's spell. Zero then copied the power of Miroku's seal, intending to break Setsuna's seal. Meanwhile, Towa, Setsuna, and Moroha discuss Setsuna's increasingly blunt weapon. Moroha said that she was an expert in sharpening any weapon. Afterward, she tried to repair Setsuna's weapon, but her weapon still didn't turn sharp. Moroha then said that Setsuna's weapon was dull due to the power of the demon's blood in her, so the poison sealed in the weapon made it dull. Elsewhere, Zero meets Kiranmaru and talks about the half-stealth that managed to scratch his face. After that, Zero talks about Setsuna. She says if Setsuna's seal is opened, Kiranmaru will not come home with a scratch but death. Soon after, Zero went to meet the 3 half-stealth princesses. Suddenly, when Towa was walking at the back, she was approached by Zero, who was in disguise. At the same time, Towa got hit by Zero's thread of destiny power. It turned out that move allowed Zero to control Towa. Then she moves Towa to hold Setsuna's weapon. On the other hand, Moroha cannot attack Zero because if Zero dies while the thread of destiny is still connected to Towa, then Towa will die. Afterward, Zero approached Setsuna and opened the stealth seal inside her. It didn't take long for her eyes to turn red, and lines of poisonous blood on her hands and cheeks began to appear. Shortly after, Zero tells her true identity, that she is Kiranmaru's sister. After that, she released Towa so that Moroha could attack her, but Moroha's attack was not perfect and was easily thwarted by Zero, and then she left them. Meanwhile, Setsuna was already losing consciousness and started going berserk. Takechio, who approached her, was almost hit by her attack. On the other hand, Sesshomaru and Tadasai, the blacksmith, realized this. Soon after, Towa tries to contain and absorb Setsuna's stealth energy, but it's too strong. Suddenly, Setsuna's back released energy that formed the same butterfly wings as the dreaming butterfly and then left them. Moroha, who saw that it didn't stay, then used her lip color and turned it into Inuyasha to help Setsuna. Meanwhile, Miroku's eldest daughter, Kinu, arrives at Miroku's place and is still trapped by Zero's attack. Then Kinu went with Hisui and Kiara to seal Setsuna's power again. Then they had to hold her from moving. On the other hand, Moroha was getting pushed back and was defeated by Setsuna. Suddenly, Towa grabbed Setsuna from behind and tried to revive her. Even though Towa was hit by Setsuna's attack, she still didn't let go and tried to revive Setsuna. Finally, Setsuna succeeded in suppressing her stealth energy and regained consciousness. Afterward, Kinu resealed Setsuna's power. However, the blood mark on her hand still didn't disappear. The scene shifts to the modern Japanese era. So, there is a man named Osamu Kirin, Towa's teacher. The next day, Osamu meets Sota and asks about Towa. He discussed a bit about the comet that heads for Earth once every 470 years, but it turns out that it cannot be seen by ordinary people. The scene moves back to the era of feudal Japan. It can be seen that Zero is asking Riku about Towa while Towa is accompanying Setsuna to discuss the signature she signed with Jiyubei. Jiyubei then explained that it was a blood sword inherited from the blood of the great dog demon. After that, they decide to kill Zero before sunrise. On the other hand, Kiranmaru meets Sesshomaru's mother to ask about the time windmill. Then Towa and Setsuna were escorted by Takechio to Zero's place. Shortly after, Towa fought Zero while Setsuna went to meet Riku and fought too. Not long after, Moroha came with Kiara and helped Towa fight Zero. It turned out that Moroha almost succeeded in attacking Zero with some techniques but was blocked by Riku using the ashes of the great dog demon. Then Miyoga explained that this is where the great dog demon spirit died. On the other hand, Setsuna orders Riku to return Towa's silver pearls. Suddenly, Zero finds out that Riku has been trying to collect all the rainbow pearls for her. Riku said he was trying to return the 7 rainbow pearls to Zero. However, she was not happy with what he was doing. When Zero was ready to show the power of the rainbow pearls, all the rainbow flew towards her, including Moroha and Setsuna's. At the same time, Setsuna's blood sword began to react after the pearl came out. When Zero went berserk, Setsuna attacked her with her blood sword from behind, bringing Zero to the verge of death. Elsewhere, Akiru appeared to Sesshomaru, so he entered the sacred age tree, where Rin was sleeping. Elsewhere, Kiranmaru sees the time windmill that starts to move because right now, Zero is dying. Unfortunately, that thing makes Rin die because Zero is connected to the thread of destiny with her. After that, Zero is sent to the world under the border of the world between life and death. It turned out that Sesshomaru's mother could see Zero and speak through the ball in her hand. Meanwhile, Sesshomaru came to Zero's place and slashed the underworld creature between Zero with Tesaga's sword, so she could come back to life. Zero knew she was saved using a Tesaga's sword from the demon dog's fangs. Knowing that the great demon was angry, and with the power of her rainbow pearl, Zero broke Sesshomaru's Tesaga sword. As a result, Zero decided to intervene and kill Sesshomaru's children. But suddenly, Kiranmaru came so that Towa and the others felt an enormous killing aura. Suddenly, Kiara came and took the 3 half-demon princesses away. Kiranmaru then apologized to Sesshomaru because his sister had broken his Tesaga sword, and he snapped at Zero for going too far. But Sesshomaru said he is not tied to Tesaga's sword as long as he has the Bakusaga sword. Zero then challenges Sesshomaru to cut himself because Tesaga's sword can only save people once, and now his sword is broken. Then, Sesshomaru continued to attack Zero seriously, which was finally blocked by Kiranmaru. It turned out that Zero's attitude annoyed Kiranmaru. Because of that, he removed all of Zero's rainbow pearls in various directions. This made Zero break all ties with Kiranmaru. From that moment on, she did not consider Kiranmaru her younger brother anymore. Afterward, she left there, but when Riku was about to chase her, he stabbed her from behind and left. After that, the half-demon princesses returned downstairs, and Sesshomaru went and said to Kiranmaru that this was a ritual of courage and cowardice. Then he finally fights the 3 half-demon princesses. Not long after, Towa attacked Kiranmaru, followed by Setsuna and Moroha. They joined the attack, but all of them could be easily blocked by Kiranmaru. Suddenly, Moroha was knocked away by Kiranmaru's attack. Seeing that, Setsuna attacked him, but she fell down, and her weapon cracked. Seeing this, Towa's strength grew, and Kiranmaru used Setsuna to make Towa angry. Because of that, she stabbed Kiranmaru when he walked towards Setsuna. Soon after, Setsuna attacked Kiranmaru with her blood sword, scratching his cheek again. That made him become angry, and then he slashed her. However, Setsuna instead blocked the attack with her sword. Unfortunately, her sword was cut, and she was hit by Kiranmaru's slash until she fell and died. Soon after, Towa approached Setsuna, but sadly, she was no longer saved. The next day, Moroha returned and turned into Inuyasha, but this time she became calm, and unusually, from her body appeared an aura resembling the great dog demon's stealth. Meanwhile, Towa, who witnessed the death of her younger sister, created a stealth aura. Not only that, her hair grew long, and stealth marks began appearing on her face. Then she attacked Kiranmaru simultaneously, and when he tried to block her attacks, suddenly there was an explosion. Kiranmaru was attacked from all sides. Towa and her friends even fought until another dimension. It turned out that Moroha's strength can even make a planet split and destroyed, as well as Towa, who can make Kiranmaru desperate. Towa then absorbs Kiranmaru's stealth energy, but because his stealth energy is very large, Towa faints, returns to her original form, and falls. Seeing this, Moroha didn't remain silent. She attacked Kiranmaru again, but her attack was preceded, and it knocked her down. Because of that fight, Towa and Moroha lay helpless, while Kiranmaru was battered from being hit by many attacks, and he chose to leave from there. After a while, Towa and Moroha were very saddened by Setsuna's death. Soon after, the rain fell as if it was crying over her. But suddenly, Sesshomaru came over to Towa, and he gave her his broken Tessage sword to her. The moral that can be learned from this anime is that it teaches us the meaning of brotherhood, friendship, and unyielding determination. The spirit of Towa, Setsuna, and Moroha is completely different from their parents.